Ranking potential Spider-Man 4 villains by how badly I want to see them in the movie. In dead last place, I have Morbius. The only reason he's on this list is because of the news that the film is going to be multiversal, which makes me a little worried that Sony's going to want characters like him in the film, but I'm sorry, he needs to be kept far away from Spider-Man 4 in any way, shape, or form, because listen, he was literally already a D-list character in the comics. Like, he was not popular whatsoever. He had very limited times in the comics. Why he got a solo movie, I really don't know, and the solo movie did no help for this character. It honestly just kind of ruined his legacy forever. We're never going to be able to take this character, especially this version of him, serious, so please just keep him out of Spider-Man 4. It would be so goofy. Speaking of goofy, at number 7, I have the Hobgoblin, because yes, this would probably play pretty goofy just because of how Ned is portrayed in the Spider-Man MCU universe, but I'm not going to lie, I do feel like there is some potential that it could be a cool kind of side villain, kind of antagonist, something like when Harry Osborn turned into the Green Goblin in Spider-Man 3. Something like that could be cool, especially since we know we're never going to really get like a Norman Osborn or Harry Osborn, most likely in this universe because of Spider-Man No Way Home. It would be something to see later down the line. I just don't really think he should be the villain in this next movie. Let me know what you think about that, though. Number 6, we're getting to villains that I actually think would be pretty decent in a movie. It's Craven the Hunter. Now, yes, as I've been saying with pretty much all of these, I would much rather it be the MCU's own version of this. I like Aaron Tyler Johnson. I think he'll be fine in this probably very mediocre to bad movie. Again, I just don't really want to connect these Sony and MCU universes, even though that seems likely. But if they do have to do it, I think if they have just Craven in it, it would actually be pretty decent. The reason I think he would work is because he's kind of more of a mid-tier villain. He's not like some crazy thing, or it's not like a whole Sinister Six. It would kind of be similar to like the Vulture in Spider-Man Homecoming. I feel like there could be a really good personal story with this guy and his backstory, and obviously him trying to maybe expose Peter for who he is and hunt him down. Could be a little repetitive based on things we've already seen in the MCU, but I do think there is at least some potential for this character. At number 5, I have Silver Sable. I know that sometimes she's even a friend of Spider-Man and more of like an antagonist, but I think having her be like a villain or having a villainous turn in a movie could actually be something pretty cool, because this is a character that we really have not been exposed to besides the Spider-Man games outside of the comics. Even though Sony doesn't think so, everybody's gonna go and see Spider-Man 4 no matter who you throw in it as the side and supporting characters and the villain of the film. You don't need to bring back Toby and Andrew of how all the big heavy hitters. You could give us a way lesser known character like Silver Sable, and she could honestly become a fan favorite character if you just introduce her right. At number 4, I have Venom. He's only a little bit lower for a couple reasons. The first one being the same thing I've said about the other ones. I'm not crazy about the Sony crossovers, although I do think if they had to have someone from the Sony universe, this version of Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock and his Venom would be the best one to come into the MCU, because it is just a cool design and great take on the character. The other reason that he's not in the top 3 is because I actually think Venom would be a better villain to have in Spider-Man 5. If you're unaware, Spider-Man 4 is now set to release in between Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. So I think what could be really cool in Spider-Man 4, you let Tom and Spider-Man get the symbiote in that entire movie. He has it for the entirety of Secret Wars as well, really letting us explore the symbiote and how it just slowly just deteriorates him pretty much and makes him lose control of who he is. Then in Spider-Man 5, he fully confronts it and has to fight Venom. I think that would be the better way to go about it. Venom is still pretty dope no matter what. Another thing they could possibly do is have Flash Thompson get the symbiote and he becomes Venom, because that is something that happens in the comics, but I feel like this version of Flash that we have in the movies, I just can't see him becoming Venom. It would feel very similar to Ned becoming the Hobgoblin. These characters just don't seem set to turn into a full-on villain, but who knows what they're gonna do. Coming in at number 3 is Kingpin. Now let me just be honest, I think the movie would be absolutely perfect if it had all of these top 3 villains in it, or at least 2 of these 3, but let's get on to Kingpin first, because I do think he needs to be in this next movie, whether he's the main villain or behind the scenes kind of directing our other villain in the film. He needs to be in this thing. We're likely gonna see him next year in the Daredevil Born Again series, so obviously that's gonna depend on how that season goes, if he lives to make it through the end of that season, because if he doesn't, obviously he will not be able to be in this movie that takes place after, but I don't think they're going to kill him off. They know how good he is as his character and how important he is to Spider-Man, and the fact that we've never really had Kingpin in a Spider-Man movie before is just such a missed opportunity. Again, I feel like they're not going to go for the street level stuff, but I think they need to just have Kingpin in this movie being like the new street level Thanos level villain. At number 2 is Black Cat. She needs to be in this as some sort of antagonist or villain. There's so many different opportunities. The first is that she could maybe be like a villain the entire time working under Kingpin, and then she turns to the good side, or vice versa. Maybe she's been working for Kingpin or someone else the entire time and kind of betrays Peter at the end. But now that Peter's all alone, he doesn't have any really friends or MJ anymore, this is the perfect time for him to fall for someone as the more Spider-Man side of him. Maybe he knows she's not good for him, but he can still be just vulnerable in this time. Just last week, a rumor came out saying that Sydney Sweeney has actually been offered the role of Black Cat in the MCU MCU, which would obviously lean towards her actually being in this movie, but who knows? These rumors come out all the time and like half of them end up being fake. I know this is not what most people care about, but call me crazy, I don't actually think Sydney Sweeney would be the best personality-wise to match what Black Cat is as a character, and I just can't picture her and Tom Holland interacting, honestly, in the MCU, but maybe it'll be peak anyways. But number one, it has to be Michael Mando as Scorpion or Mac Gargan. He has been teased since the first Spider-Man Homecoming movie in the MCU in that post-credit scene, and they just completely forgot about my guy. He would be the perfect villain for this. Again, him working in tandem with maybe Kingpin, combined with Sydney Sweeney's Black Cat as like the antagonist of the film, would be an absolutely perfect recipe. He's an amazing villain. Again, it's kind of similar to a Vulture thing again, where I feel like he's a nice lower level villain, but can still do a lot of harm to Peter. But let me know in the comments anyone from this list or that I didn't include that you want to see in Spider-Man 4 as the villains.